Hi everyone, it's Meredith from BespokeClassroom.com and teachwriting.org, and I'm super excited to be here and be a part of this online conference about efficiency in the classroom through technology. And today I'm going to be giving you a quick tutorial on getting started with two Google add-ons called Doctopus and Goobric for Google Classroom. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. Today I'm going to be using a sample class with a sample student and a sample assignment to show you how to use Doctopus and Goobric to grade it electronically, to grade that assignment electronically without having to use a printed out rubric and without having to write all the comments and things on the assignment. So you'll see here in my sample Google Classroom, I've titled it Sample Class 1. I have a sample persuasive paragraph assignment here. I have, technically I have one student, one sample student here who has returned the assignment, but we're going to be looking at how to go about grading this assignment using Doctopus and using Goobric. So first thing we're going to be doing is going to our Google Drive. So I'm going to be going over here to our Google Apps in this little square of cubes up here in the upper right hand corner. Then I'm going to be going down to my Google Drive right here. And in Google Drive, I'm going to be creating a new spreadsheet. So I'm going to go over here to where it says New with the plus sign, and I'm going to go down to Google Sheets. So New, Google Sheets, and here is my new Google spreadsheet ready to go. It is loading. Now, just to be a little bit clearer for yourself, and especially to help you when you go back and search for these spreadsheets and these grades, go ahead and title the spreadsheet the name of the assignment and put also the class period. So that will help you identify which assignments, which spreadsheets go with which classes and which assignments, etc. So it's just for organizational purposes. So this assignment is called Persuasive Paragraph for Sample Class 1. So Persuasive Paragraph, Sample Class 1. But normally I would put in here the class period. I would say like, first period, or I would say, AP Lit, AP Lit, fourth period, whatever like the class is, go ahead and put that up there for your own sanity, because if you just title 4 or 5 spreadsheets Persuasive Paragraph, it's going to take you a minute to figure out which class period it is. So just for your own sake, I would recommend putting that in the title of the spreadsheet. So now, I already have Doctopus installed here, but if you don't, this is how you're going to be adding it on to your spreadsheet. So you're going to go up here in the toolbar where it says Add-Ons, click on Add-Ons. Then you're going to go down. Mine already says Doctopus. So once it's already added on, you'll come down to Doctopus and you'll select Launch. But we're going to pretend like it's not there. We're going to go to Get Add-Ons. We're going to pretend like we don't have it, I don't have it, and let's go get it. So we're going to go to Get Add-Ons. It's going to open up this new searchable box. Doctopus is right here, but let's pretend Doctopus is not there at the top. So I'm going to type in Doctopus and hit search, and it's going to find it for me. And next to this, it's going to have this plus sign and the word free. So you'll actually be selecting on the word free. I'm just going to click on this other one down here just so you can see what's going to happen. When you click on it, you're going to be selecting which account you want to add it on to. You're going to be going down and you're going to be saying allow. Okay, so those are the same steps for Doctopus. You'll be allowing that. And once you go through those steps, it will then appear in your add-on menu, or your drop-down menu here, and you'll be selecting from here on out the word launch. So let's go ahead and launch Doctopus and see what happens. So it's going to take it a minute to go ahead and launch and load. Now remember, Doctopus is like a virtual document octopus. So I like that visual of the octopus with the 8 arms, because what it's doing is it's reaching out, it's grabbing information, and it's loading it into the spreadsheet. So it's reaching out, grabbing it, and loading it into the spreadsheet. I'm going to dismiss this right here real quick. Okay, so once Doctopus loads in, you're going to have this menu open here on the right-hand side. So the first thing you're going to want to do, so step 1, I want to use Doctopus 2. We have a drop-down menu. So we want to be able to ingest a Google Classroom assignment. So this means we want to go and get the assignment and bring it right here. We want to go get those students and their work. We want to bring it right here to the spreadsheet. Distributing drive resources to a roster means to send it out, right? It's going outwards. It's going the opposite direction. So there are 2 modes for Doctopus. So, but right now we're going to ingest. We're going to grab it with our tentacles, and we're going to bring it right here, our virtual tentacles. And then once you select your mode, you're going to be selecting the class. So here I only have 1 sample class. And then I'm going to get my list of assignments. And I only have 1 assignment, but you might have 20 assignments here. So it depends on how many you have in your Google Classroom stream at the time. Today I'm keeping things simple with 1 class, 1 assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and select that assignment. Here it comes. I'm going to go ahead and select Ingest Assignment. And it's going to take a moment to work. And then there it is. Here are my students. My sample students, all 3 of them are my husband. Okay, so that's fun. And he has not turned in his work. So it will show you that one of these has actually already been graded, but we're just sort of pretending here right now. If a student has not turned in work, it's going to show that to you. It also gives you an option when you go to ingest. I've already set it up to where it's going to show me students who haven't turned in their work, but you can actually select to skip over those students. If you don't want those students to appear here, you don't have to have them here on this spreadsheet. But I like to see that because I have a way that I notate that in my gradebook. A lot of times I'll put like an X. If an assignment is missing, I'll put an X, or I'll put the number 1 or something like that to notate to myself, but also to the student that, hey, we were missing an assignment here. And for a million different reasons, it could be the student was absent, the student didn't do it, the student was sick, who knows what's going on. So anyhow, we'll notice is that we have the student's name, we have here a link, and the link is to the student's work. So let's just go ahead and click on the student's assignment here. There it is. Okay, so you'll actually see the student's work appear there. Okay, so this is where you're actually going to be ultimately grading the work, but we're not ready just yet because we actually have to attach a rubric. But I just wanted to explain to you that this column here, it says link, is a link to the student's assignment. Now, notice it says attach Goobric. So before you can attach a Goobric, a Google rubric mashup, right? Gotta love millennials. I just love them. Octopuses, Doctopuses. I mean, this is so funny. All right. But anyway, moving forward. You have to create a rubric first. You have to create a Google spreadsheet rubric. So this means you're going to have to go in here again. New Google Sheet. Maybe you have already created the rubric before you get to this point. You're going to title it, of course. It's still working as I'm trying to type. Rubric. Okay, so we're going to title the name of this rubric. Now, there is a structure. There is a specific format you have to use in order to create a Goobric so that it can be used with Doctopus. Okay, so there is a specific way to put in the information. So the left-hand column, the first column, column A, this is going to be where you're going to put in your skills criteria. What are you grading for? Are you grading for, if it's a paragraph, I'll put in topic sentence. I'm also going to be grading for textual evidence, commentary and analysis, concluding sentence, maybe also grammar. Okay, so I'm going to put in my grading criteria here. It has to go into column A. Then in the top row across here, the only thing you can put in here are numerical values. These are the points that you're going to be giving to each level of performance. Okay, so for example, the top scoring category, you're going to decide how many points and how you're going to set up the point system. That's entirely up to you. This is just an example. But let's say I'm going to give the top scoring category 5 points, the second one 3 points, the third one 1 point. And you decide how you're going to set this up. It's entirely up to you. Then what I'm going to do in each one of these rows is I'm going to put in my descriptive criteria for each of these point values. Let me just show you the rubric that I've already created so I don't have to sit here and type all of this up. Okay, let's take a look at this rubric here that I've already set up. So notice in the left-hand column, I have these skills for the paragraph that I'll be grading for. Across the top row, I have my point values. And I'm going to show you, once we get into actually grading an assignment, why it's important that you set up your rubric this way. You're going to see, because if you don't set it up this way, it's not going to work. So points across the top, you figure out, here I did 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, but you decide what those points will be. Then you're going to be typing in your descriptive criteria. This is really important because you're recreating a rubric here. So this is the main way you'll be providing feedback to your students. So make it as descriptive as possible. I love descriptive rubrics because that's less for me to have to type in comments or write by my hand on a piece of paper and all that kind of thing. It is a time-saving tool. So be specific and be descriptive. So once you have your rubric, it's all set up. There it is. X out of this one. I'm going to X out of it. Now, I'm going to go back into my spreadsheet I've created with Doctopus, where my students are with their assignments, and I'm going to attach Goobric. So let's pretend like this paragraph rubric isn't actually showing. It's showing my most recent one. I just had that open, but let's pretend that I didn't have anything open. I'd be going into my library or even into my drive, and I'd be searching for it. So I'm going to search for it. Paragraph rubric. Here it is, paragraph rubric. Okay, so I'm going to go find it. Now, once I have found and located my Goobric, my rubric, Google rubric, I have some options down here. Number one, some check boxes here. Number one, make the rubric viewable to students. Well, I always leave that checked. I always believe in showing my students how they're being assessed. I can't really think of a situation where you wouldn't want to tell your students how they're being assessed. I think that's important to communicate to students no matter what the situation is. Allow for self and peer assessment. This is more for like peer editing and that kind of thing, or group work. This is an assignment. I'm gonna uncheck that because this is an assignment the student just turned into me. There's not really any peer review kind of thing going on here. Send email notification to students. So do you want your students to know you've attached the Goobric? You may or may not. It's up to you. I'm going to uncheck that because I don't need them to get that email that says, hey, the rubric's been attached to the assignment. But you may want that. Depends on the assignment. I'm going to go ahead and attach the Goobric to my spreadsheet. And once it attaches, we're going to have a new column that appears. And this new column is going to provide us with a link called Assess Document. And that's where we're actually going to be going in to grade each individual assignment. So I'm going to show all this to you. It just takes it a moment for Goobric to load in and work and do its magic. So as it's doing that, we'll get that new column that says Assess Document with a link. And there it is, exactly what I was talking about right here. It says Assess Document. Goobric link is now here. One of these, notice that I had my husband actually put in an image for one of them instead of writing. So it will tell you assess image. So if there's something visual that you want your students to turn in, they can turn that in as well. They can turn in a video, an image, whatever you can store in a Google Drive, they can turn into you via Google Drive, so via Google Classroom. So it is really handy. So that will be notated here in this column, this Goobric link column, what type of document it is, if it's an image or if it's a document. Okay, so let's get started with the grading process. Let's take a look at how grading works with Goobric. So the first thing to get started is we're actually going to be clicking on the link. Here it is, to take us to the grading process. And this is what it's going to look like. It's now going to be mashing together, another mashup here, mash together the assignment with the Goobric that we created. So let's talk about what we actually see at this point. Notice that the rubric or the Goobric that we created, that I created, you created, appears at the top of the screen. So remember what I said? It was really important that you set up that Goobric with the criteria in column A and only number values in row A, row 1. It's because it's going to be putting it into this format at the top to make it really easy for you to grade. So it's going to have across the top the criteria, and then underneath that it's going to have these point values for each of the different descriptors that go with each point value. So what you're going to do to grade this, here's the student's assignment, you read it, you look at it, you assess it. So for topic sentences, you're going to be coming in here next to this criteria and entering the numerical value depending upon how the student scores for each of these skill sets. So for topic sentences, let's say the student scored a 4. I'm going to type in the 4. For evidence, let's say the student scored a 2. For commentary, let's say the student scored a 1. Concluding sentence 4. Grammar and language 3. Pretty fast. That's why this is super efficient and effective. It's that fast to grade the assignment. Now, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't end there. I have a couple of other ways I can go about communicating with my student on the assignment. So I can go into the assignment. You'll notice that I have actually already created a couple of comments here because this assignment was already previously graded. And all you do to do that is highlight something. And when you highlight it, this plus sign appears. And that's how you add a comment. So select the plus sign. Let's add a comment. Excellent. Topic sentence. Okay, there we go. I can communicate that with the student. Let's add in another comment. Check citation. Add the comment. Okay, so I can communicate with my student that way. Also, up here in the upper right-hand corner, I have a comments box. So if I want to give my students overall very broad brushstroke comments, I do that right here in the upper right-hand corner in the comments box. So I can say to my student, okay, well, I gave them a 1 for commentary. Please go back and revise commentary. Explain how evidence connects to topic sentence. That's something I say to students quite often. Explain how evidence connects to topic sentence. Explain the evidence. Students a lot of times just paraphrase it and put it in their own words, but they don't ever actually explain it. So that's an English teacher problem there. So anyway, but I can give comments, just overall broad brushstroke comments there for the entire assignment. Now, once it's graded, I hit submit and it's graded. I just want to show you where the scores will appear. It's going to put the rubric at the bottom of the assignment. It's going to highlight how the student was marked in each of the categories on the rubric. And then overall comments, those comments that I leave up here in this box in the upper right hand corner, those comments are also going to appear with that rubric. And I don't know about you, but for me, I can speak faster, I can type much faster than I can write by hand. Notice here, speaking of speaking, in the upper right hand corner, I can record an audio comment. So I can select this right now and I can talk to my student. Let's try it. Hey there, Julio. I just read your paragraph. You got some really excellent things going on here as far as the argument is concerned. The main thing I want you to work on is your commentary. Make sure that you are really explaining how those quotations connect to the overall argument and that topic sentence. Try to focus on moving past just paraphrasing those pieces of evidence and really explaining what they mean. So now, I just left that. I'm going to push this arrow button to upload it to the drive. I'm going to make sure that that is attached to this assignment and that my student can get the audio comment. See this? New audio comments. And I can put it in the trash can and I can do it again if I need to do it again. But we're talking about time savers. We're talking about being efficient. I also like to do conferences with my students in class where I actually will have them come sit down with their writing and I will say these things to them and I will have them take the notes. Or I will actually let them bring their cell phones up and I will allow them to record our conversation. So that really depends on, of course, your school and classroom and policies and all that. But that's not always possible to do in class, and it's certainly not always possible to do with every single student. So this provides another way of communicating in a quick and efficient manner. Notice that underneath this box, you have some check marks. So I have some options. I can check the box to email the scores to the student, which it depends on how quickly you want them to get the grade. If you check this box, as soon as you click submit, they are going to immediately receive an email that will have this in it. It will have their assignment, it will have their graded rubric, they're going to have that score. But you may want to hold off. And I'll tell you that the assignments I hold off on are major graded assignments because my students tend to have a lot of questions about those grades. They can have a lot of questions about those grades. They want to maybe meet with me, they want to go over them, etc. So when I'm actually still processing those grades, I'm still actually in the grading process, I may want more time to finish grading before I let them have their scores, and then I'll give everybody their scores all at the same time, also just to make it more fair so that everybody gets their grades at the same time. But also it opens up and frees me at that point. Once I'm done grading, now I can answer your questions. So it really depends on you and your personal preferences. Auto advance on submit, you definitely want to check this box. What that means is as soon as you click submit, it's going to automatically take you to the very next student in the roster. You definitely want to do that just to save yourself some time. Only add scored categories to the document. If for some reason you didn't score a category, you can opt to have that not show up on the spreadsheet. Let's go ahead and click submit. But it will auto advance to the next student all the way through. So now if I go back to my rubric, here's what you're actually going to see now at the bottom. You're going to see you're going to see a new tab called Rubric Scores. I'm going to click on that. Rubric Scores are here. And look what appears. I have my skills categories here at the top. Topic sentences, evidence, commentary, all those skills that I'd put onto my rubric are now here. Concluding sentences, grammar and language, etc. And then the comments that I left also appear here. Please go back, revise the commentary, and then also the audio wave file for that voice message that I left my husband student. All right, now what I want to do actually is if I'm going to give a grade, I really want these points to be added together because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here at the calculator doing math and adding them up one by one. And again, that's going to take time. And the idea here is not to take up time, it's to save time. We want to save time with technology, not take up more time. So we're going to go in here. I'm actually going to insert column to the right. I'm going to call this, sum, or I might even call it like, final grade, or I might call it like, total, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to be adding up these columns. So the quick way to go about doing a sum, doing a total, adding up different criteria here is to click on this function sign over here. Click on the functions. You're going to be selecting the word sum because you're adding up columns, you're adding up points. And I'm actually going to click on these different fields, holding down the shift key, and then I'm going to hit enter. And then, so this student scored 14 points total. Now, I don't have to go and do that for every single student in every single row. What I can do here is I can grab this little box that turns into a plus sign when I hover over it. There's a little bitty cube there at the bottom right-hand corner of this field. I can grab it and I can drag it down. And it will, what that does is it copies the same command down the column. So take a look at that. Do you see how that added up? So the second student scored a 20 and these other two zeros because they were not graded. So when you go back to the tab where you ingested all of your students and their assignments, you have some options here you can continue to work with. You can display the latest scores. You can display average scores. You can come in here where you have the graded column, and you can also put in that sum if you want to do it here as well. You can put those grades here on this page, but they're also on this page too. So it depends on, it depends on you and where you want to have those scores housed and appear. You can refresh the edits. You can look for new submissions in case you've had students turn the work in at a different time. Send feedback email, add a co-teacher. If you want to add another teacher to come into this grading process with you and help you grade, you can do that too. So there are a lot of options. Now, as far as getting them over into Google Classroom, one of the things that I like to do is I like to actually physically print out my grade book sometimes. Essentially, this is a grade book now. It's a Google spreadsheet, but now it's a grade book. It has scores on it, right? So I like to print these out. A lot of times I'll come in here and delete some of these columns and I'll just print out the students' names and these final grades, and sometimes I'll just keep them in a file, keep a record of them. Sometimes I'll export them into my electronic grade book, and then other times I will go back to Google Classroom and I'll come in here to the assignment and I'll actually enter a grade for the student. He scored what, a 14? Okay, so I'll actually give him a grade for that assignment. And I can sort it and all kinds of things there within Google Classroom. Okay, so that's what I kind of do with that information once I've graded it within Doctopus and Goobric, and that's pretty much it. So that's how it works, and it can be a huge time saver. I would definitely recommend, like I said, make those rubrics super specific, put a lot of detailed criteria, put a lot of descriptive detail in those rubrics. Save yourself time by loading it into that rubric, being super specific. Use those vocal audio comments, because if you're like me, I can talk faster than I can type and write, and really use this as a way to communicate directly with your students on assignments and save yourself the time. So thank you so much for tuning in today to learn more about Doctopus and Goobric with Google Classroom. Be sure to check out the Bespoke ELA blog at bespokeclassroom.com and also teachwriting.org for all of your English language arts needs. I hope you guys have a great school year.